This podcast does not provide medical advice. Please listen to the complete disclosure at the end of the recording.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Everyone Dies, the podcast where we talk about serious illness, dying, death, and bereavement. I'm Marian Matzo, a nurse practitioner, and I use my experience from working as a nurse for 44 years to help answer your questions about what happens at the end of life.
And I'm Charlie Navarrete, an actor in New York City, and here to ask the questions that you may have while listening to our podcast. We are both here because we believe that the more you know, the better prepared you are to make difficult decisions when a crisis hits.
So please relax and get yourself something charmingly fabulous to snack and sip on. And thank you for spending the next hour with Charlie and me as we talk about what a treat Halloween grief is and how triggering it can be for some people. In the first half, Charlie tells us how to predict the future with kale, and we have a recipe for your next funeral lunch that has Irish and Halloween roots. Doesn't it sound like I'm making all this up?
Yes, it does, and it's your improvisational skills are top notch.
In the second half, I'll be talking about grief related to and triggered by Halloween. And in our third half, Claire Lucky, Instagram's grieving bitch, will be joining us. So Charlie.
Wait a minute. So this really is all real? You're not just making this up?
You know.
What? Yeah.
I love being creative. I love, trying to just mix it up, baby. And this is it. This is mixed up.
I see. Curious, Captain. All right, very good.
You know what I found out?
It's a rhetorical question. No, what?
No, my daughter is doing her residency in Rhode Island. So my other daughter and I went to go see her because it's between their two birthdays. And we would be talking and we'd start laughing and all three of us would snort. And I never knew. I guess it's an adulting thing that they've, I don't know what's happening with their noses or adenoids or whatever, but all three of us were snorting. It was like, it made me laugh even more. It's like, how'd they become snorters?
That's funny.
It is. It was really hysterical.
I don't know if I told you, but the last time I was in Michigan, I was having dinner with one of my brothers and my sister, and in the conversation, I mentioned I'm grunting when I stand up. I like it's like a grunt. So we all laughed. We finished dinner. We all got up, and the three of us just all grunted. Yeah, good time.
The grunting of the Navarretes.
Yes, there we are. Next Game of
Thrones. There's a play for you.
There we are, the grunting Navarretes. Well, so,
what you got for us?
Well, Marianne, American Halloween used to kick off with a mass theft of root vegetables. An old name for the night. Yes, well, we all need a hobby. It's an old...
The good old days.
Yes, indeed.
Let's go get some root vegetables.
An old name for the night before Halloween is Cabbage Night, because you would steal cabbage, which was part of the Halloween prank. The trick would be one night, and the treat would be the next night. In all likelihood, it stems from the Scottish tradition of caling, which involves wandering blindfolded into a field of kale around midnight, right around the time the barrier between the worlds of the living and the dead grows thin. The blindfolded participant would yank up the first available bunch of leaves, then analyze the stalk for clues about their future romantic partner. Simpler times. The ritual also features prominently in Scottish literary hero Robert Burns' 1985.
1985?
Yeah, 1985 poem. He came back for a repeat performance.
Because it was just such a good poem.
Yes. But originally 1785 poem, Halloween. An extensively researched and notated work that drew on older poems and first-hand accounts of festivities. The poem describes two teenagers heading off to the field for some caling and losing their virginity in the process.
Whoa.
Da-da-da. An ideal premise for an off-kilter slasher film if ever there was one. What exactly can Cale tell you about your boo-to-be? In Halloween Wraith, William Black wrote, "Maybe you would rather pull a stock that was tall and straight and strong." Yes, we are on the same wavelength here.
Oh, God.
Or, as he adds, that if you pulled up a weathered old stump with a lot of earth at the root, you might wind up with a decrepit old man with plenty of money in the bank. Kind of the yin and the yang of the Irish. In honor of Halloween, our recipe this week is colcannon. Colcannon is a simple dish with hidden depths. It consists of mashed potatoes mixed with kale or cabbage, traditionally topped with butter, and some variations featuring scallions, leeks, onions, or chives. A bit of old Blarney revolves around colcannon and unmarried women. Young Irish girls in years gone by were blindfolded and sent out to the garden at Halloween to pick a cabbage. A ring was then hidden in the colcannon made with the cabbage. Whomever found the ring on their plate was said to be the next to marry. Another old Halloween colcannon tale tells how unmarried women put the first and last bite of colcannon into a stocking and hung it on their front door. The next unmarried man to come to that door was said to be her intended husband. Who needed matchmakers if a stocking colcannon did the trick? I wonder how long it was left hanging there. Maybe it was a smell of stinky old cabbage that eventually attracted a curious, unsuspecting bachelor. In order to predict the future, it may also contain a thimble, button, or ring. The dish was often served with a small trinket hidden inside, each carrying a symbolic meaning. Buttons signaled to boys and thimbles to girls that they would not soon be married. Rings meant the opposite, and coins foretold wealth on the horizon. Over time, colcannon became associated with various Irish rituals, most of them observed on Halloween. Or, in the original Gaelic, Ihachuna Hangriviv, a harvest vegetable.
Whoa, I'm impressed.
Yeah, me too. You have no idea how many times I had to repeat that. These traditions illustrate colcannon's centrality to Irish folk identity, as do these lovely lyrics from the Skillet Pot. Did you ever eat colcannon made from lovely pickled cream, with the greens and scallions mingled like a picture in a dream? Did you ever make a hole on top to hold the melting flake of the creamy flavored butter that your mother used to make? Yes, you did. So you did. So did he and so did I. And the more I think about it, sure, the nearer I'm to cry. Oh, wasn't it the happy days when troubles we had not, and our mothers made colcannon in the little skillet pot?
Oh, what a nice poem.
Yes. Please go to our webpage for the pot recipe. Well, you know what I mean. And additional resources for this program. Please follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and remember to rate and review this podcast. We have a link in our show notes that makes rating our podcast very easy, and that would be very helpful to us. As a licensed nonprofit organization, we are dependent on your kindness and always appreciate your tax-deductible donations. Many of you have told us you find this podcast to help you. So please go to our webpage to donate so that we can continue to provide quality shows about serious illness, dying, death, and bereavement at everyonedies.org. That's www.every1dies.org. Marianne?
Thanks, Charlie. You know, Halloween celebrates a time of year when the between the living and the dead is parted, and the worlds come together. Everywhere we turn, there are skeletons hanging, tombstones in yards, and ghosts dancing on lawns. It's fun to scare ourselves and others. But when we're in the midst of our own grief, the Halloween season can be very difficult and triggering. Triggers are sudden reminders of the person who died that causes powerful emotional responses, which can be unsettling. Remember, was it last week, Charlie, you were telling us about when, after Michael died, going into the store and seeing the fun-sized candy and remembering him as, the trick-or-treater and how, really upsetting it was. So, you can be the skeletons hanging, or it can be a fun-sized candy bar. For each of us, who knows what it is that could trigger us. In our grief, we become very familiar with dying, death, and grief, but often we can feel that we have to keep these experiences to ourselves because our grief may make people uncomfortable. And death is something others may choose not to talk about, or they might deny that death even happens. Then comes the Halloween celebration and the focus on death and the afterlife, and everyone is down for the celebration as long as we're not actually talking about actual death. For many people who are chest deep in their grief, Halloween can feel very hypocritical and annoying. So, what things should we consider this Halloween? If a child has died, the Halloween celebrations are particularly painful. Halloween is a time we see the excitement of children and teenagers dressing up and just being as cute as they can be. But if your child has died, this holiday is especially hard. For parents, it's the sharp reminder of their child's death and a reminder that they are not there to share in the festivities with their family and their friends. If it's our parents that we're grieving, we miss the things that we would do with them during the Halloween season. It might include picking apples, making caramel apples, or many other holiday traditions. Our parents are the ones who so often teach us the tradition of Halloween, build on Halloween rituals. If you remember the interview that we did with Gina Ford for The Death of a Mother, she talked very emphatically about how the first Halloween after her mother died, and that was like just their holiday. They just loved that holiday, and how difficult it was for Gina to even put up her Halloween decorations. So if you missed that podcast, check out the one, The Death of a Mother, to hear Gina's interview. Then there are other people in our lives whom we love to share with. These are the people who help put the fun in Halloween, including dressing up your pet or taking them trick-or-treating, or we always had on our house when the kids were younger, a gate that would squeak, and that's how you got onto the front porch. And so we would tie a string to the gate, and somebody would sit behind. And when the kids would come up, we'd open the gate, and it would squeak, and then we'd slam it against the wall so it made a noise, and then we would keep the plastic bubbles that you get with Amazon packaging, and you'd step on that and it would make a loud pop. And so we always called Halloween, that was our, with the kids, it'd be like, what are we going to do to scare the kids this year? That was what we did. And there was this really little kid coming up to the door, and we did our thing. And he stood there and he said, "Holy shit." Like this little 4-year-old. Oh, it was so funny. Anyway, so whatever your traditions are and you share memories that we have, they get brought up. And especially if, the parent or the child isn't there. So this is what makes Halloween, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, and other holidays, a very difficult time. So how do you cope with your Halloween grief? How do you get through it? So one, which is perfectly acceptable, is that you can just skip Halloween. Turn off the porch light, turn off the lights in the house, grab the Snickers bars, take a bath, or, read a book with a flashlight or something. There's no need to participate in something that gives you stress, anxiety, or depression. The other thing you do is talk about the person who died, their favorite costumes, and the things that you enjoyed together at Halloween. Look at Halloween pictures and enjoy those memories. If you're so inclined, you can post pictures on social media and tell your friends about the person or pet you're missing. And you might be surprised how supportive people are. If you're on Facebook, please post to the Facebook everyone is to see your pictures too. You can continue Halloween traditions. What are the things you love doing? Do you always go to a haunted house? Maybe you have a specific Halloween dinner or dessert. Did you decorate the house? You can continue any Halloween traditions as a way to honor your loved one. So our grief is due to their absence, but their life was real and important. It made us who we are, and our continuing of the traditions they loved and taught us is a way to honor them and what they brought to our lives. Another way to cope is eat their favorite candy. You can honor them by eating their favorite sweets and pass it out to trick-or-treaters in their honor. You can always talk to a support group or therapist if you're feeling overwhelmed. You don't have to feel that way alone. Not only are you allowed to check out and not participate in Halloween, it can also be helpful to find a support group or therapist who can help you through it. For children who've had a loved one die, talk to them about it. Sometimes costumes or decorations reflect actual elements of the death that the child is grieving, an injury, illness, or shooting, for example. The general focus on death, darkness, and fear may be enough to serve as a grief trigger for some kids. Some may be troubled at the lightheartedness and humor being brought to the topic of death. So talk to them. Ask them how they're feeling. Give them alternatives regarding their participation in Halloween. Or they might really want to participate in Halloween and you might really not want to. So find another adult who will take them and let them enjoy the holiday, and you go take a bath and eat your candy. Each of us grieves in our own way, but while Halloween can bring death front and center, it might feel like it's hypocritical. So it's a good time to educate others about what loss and grief really look like. And have another Snickers. It's okay. So any thoughts about that, Charles?
Something about having another Snickers sounds good. And if that's not available, maybe just a little Milky Way. Yeah. So I also like those little packets of M&Ms. Plain or peanut.
Anything else? You could always get those little, what do they call the little bottles of booze and give them out? Nips.
Nips. Oh, that's an interesting idea, actually. Yeah.
It could work.
I imagine the authorities would frown upon it. It could work. Claire Lucky, who goes under the name Grieving Bitch on Instagram, is part of the Everyone Dies correspondent team. At age 32 and only 5 months after her marriage, her husband Matt was diagnosed with stage 4 glioblastoma, brain cancer, in February 2020. And Claire was his caregiver until his death in June of 2021. Claire is sharing her grief journey and life challenges as a 35-year-old widow living in New York City with Everyone Dies in her bi-monthly third half segment.
So welcome back, and I'm here with Claire for our Halloween show. Hi, Claire.
Hi, Marianne. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. So we just, our second half was all about Halloween and how triggering that could be for someone who's grieving. And so I was just wondering, has your view of Halloween changed since Matt's death?
I feel that the spookiness and skeletons and things that are brought up around Halloween make me feel a little bit more normal, because I feel like I can talk a little bit more freely about death, and it's kind of encouraged. in that way. And I think what's different now is I don't want to celebrate it as much. Like when Matt was alive and we were together and married, we would go out and have parties and this and that. We're also young, so we're like, okay, what are we going to dress up as? What bar are we going to go to? Things like that. And now that he's not here, I feel like I don't have anyone to do that with, and I feel like a little bit listless. Like, what's the point?
Mm. What was one of your favorite costumes for you and Matt to go out as?
Matt always did simple stuff. He really didn't like the idea of dressing up, but I think I'm trying to remember like what one of his better costumes were. He was probably like he's worn hockey stuff quite a bit because he loved that, and I would wear Devils stuff because I'm a New Jersey Devils fan. So I think a lot of it was me pressuring him to do stuff, and he was just going along with it. And he also, a fun little thing that like that we had about Halloween was I was always about decorating. So he would call it like the Pumpkin Village, and he would make fun of how much fall stuff was in our space, and he would make fun of how many decorations I have. So that I have a lot of warm memories about that.
So did you decorate for Halloween this year?
This year is the first year that I brought out the fall decorations. I didn't have a ton of pumpkins this year. I only have one, and that one is sitting on the shrine that I have for Matt in my kitchen bar. So I love that aspect of the decoration, that even while he's dead, he can't escape my pumpkin decor.
There's nothing to say about it.
Yeah. Sorry, Toots. You've got a pumpkin right in front of your degree.
Do you find that there are any triggers for you with the Halloween decorations or the Halloween season? Like Charlie was talking about going into the store and seeing the fun size candy bars and crying because it just reminded him of Michael and trick-or-treating when Michael was little. Do you have triggers like that?
Yes. The triggers for me are actually getting out the decorations. So last year I couldn't do it. And this year, after we had that conversation on the Healing Squad, and for anybody watching, please follow us on the Healing Squad on Instagram. Me, Marianne, and Anita chat weekly about emotional damage and how we can heal from it one frustration at a time. And we had a lovely guest on, and she talked about creating a sanctuary, and that helped me get the courage to decorate again. And I didn't go all out this year, but it was a really challenging thing for me to do, and I cried when I was doing it, and I listened to a podcast to kind of take my mind off of it. And I went through with it, and I'm so glad I did it, because it now I look at it and it makes me smile and it gives me peace. And I think I can, do that going forward, and it can be a way to honor Matt, because it was something that we did that was special to me, more so than dressing up for Halloween, as we just talked about. It's really the fall decor. So that's a trigger. And then another trigger that I have around Halloween is in my desk job. There's a bunch of people that, have families and this and that, and they all talk about their Halloween plans and what their kids are going to dress up as and what they're doing. And it makes me feel really alone as a widow, because it's just me and my cat, and Matt's not here, and we're not making plans to go out, and I'm not forcing him to dress up so we can go out to some fun bar, or we're not getting a bunch of candy to give other kids in our building. So I think that's really when I see it. It's like when a bunch of other people are making plans, and I realize that I don't have my partner in crime.
Did Matt have a favorite candy?
Little mini Snickers, the bite-sized one.
Oh, yeah, that's so good. Well, one of the things that we just talked about in our second half was that you can, do something to honor, your loved one. So Matt, in this case, and you can get a whole bunch of Snickers and still give them to the children in the building, as a way of honoring Matt.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And then you could eat like 10 of them yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm only going to give out a certain amount, and then I'm going to turn my light off, so to speak, and be like, the rest are for me.
Exactly. And you could get yourself into a sugar coma, and, all will be good.
Yeah.
See, so it helps to have a plan around the holidays, right? Like how to get through, what you're going to do, how much candy you need to buy.
It does. I find that I do find planning around a holiday to be so helpful. And this year, Halloween's on a Monday, so I think I'm going to go to work and do that to distract myself, and then probably go to the gym after work. And maybe I will dress up for the gym because I go to my dance classes, and it's just it's a community. So that'll be fun to dance with my girls and a little costume.
Yeah, you could be a double for them.
Yeah, I could just get my devil horns and wear my gym clothes, and that'll be perfect.
Exactly. And then you'll feel justified in eating those 10 Snickers bars.
Exactly.
At least that's what I would tell myself. I mean, I don't know if you even need to justify anything, but that's what I would tell myself.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's my plan: is going to the gym in a costume and then eating Snickers.
And also, you give some to the kids in the building because Matt would like it, right?
They like it. It's good for the community. Now that we're beyond the 2020 era, I think we'll have a good turnout for Halloween in my building this year.
Oh yeah, they'll be wanting to be able to do that. Well, Miss Claire, thanks for talking to me, and happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Thanks.
Please stay tuned for the continuing saga of Everyone Dies. And thank you for listening. Like sand through an hourglass, so is dust in the wind. This is Charlie Navarrete, and from actor Jack Nicholson, I'm Irish. I think about death all the time.
And I'm Marianne Matzo, and we'll see you next week. Remember, if you live every day like it was your last one day you're going to be right. And every day is a gift.
This podcast does not provide medical advice. All discussion on this podcast, such as treatments, dosages, outcomes, charts, patient profiles, advice, messages, and any other discussion are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for professional medical advice or treatment. Always seek the advice of your primary care practitioner or other qualified health providers with any questions that you may have regarding your health. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard from this podcast. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. Everyone Dies does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, practitioners, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned in this podcast. Reliance on any information provided in this podcast by persons appearing on this podcast at the invitation of Everyone Dies or by other members is solely at your own risk.